So we always continued to innovate, but within this classical concept of beautiful watches, beautiful classical watches at a reasonable price, so that also younger people could buy them. We started the company in 1988, my wife and myself. Initially because we were passionate about watches, and this was during the quartz crisis. We saw Switzerland going down, but still beautiful watches in the window. And then when we would be traveling to Asia and later on expatriated in Asia, we saw many of the new technology watches which were much less in price, but typically did not have very nice designs. So when we would be then in Switzerland and stand in front of the window, see those beautiful Swiss watches far too expensive, we asked ourselves, why don't we make a classical version of those? We got this idea to open the main plate of the movement at the position of the balance wheel, and then also open the dial so that you can see constantly the balance wheel going back and forth. And we coined that the heartbeat, because it's the heart of the movement, the balance, and it beats back and forth.
We came from the Dutch watchmaking school. We had this visit. We visited Patek Philippe, Rolex, we visited Frederique Constant, and also Frederique Constant, because it was a Dutch manufacturer. Very small at the time, like 10 people working for the company. And Peter Stas asked actually the classroom if somebody could help him with this development of the movement. And I was like the only one who said, yeah, I don't know how to do it, but I'll try. And he said, okay, let's do it. Every good product begins with a good idea. We start to construct the movement inside the computer. It's actually a 3D drawing of the movement, which allows us to produce it downstairs in our basement. The second step of the production process is the manufacturing process. So that means that we're making a prototype and we're starting with this big brass plates, and actually the final product, after phrasing and cutting it out, will be this nice parts of the movement. And that's where we're making these first prototypes with. This next step is the assembly of the movement. So the movement parts we have, it depends on the complexity of the movement, but it is between like 100 parts for a mechanical hand-wound movement until a minute repeater of like 400 parts. And this is all assembled here in-house in our workshop here on the first floor. The next step of the process after the assembly and the regulation of the movement is the encasing. This means that we put on the dial, we put on the hands of the movement, and then we put it in the case. This is a very difficult part of the assembly because every small dust particle that is inside the movement that is very bad, because you can imagine you have oils, you have things turning around, and it could be a disaster when something like that stays in the movement. The last step of the process is actually the quality control. We are going to check a couple things. First of all, we're going to check the visual aspect of the watch. So this means if there are scratches, dust particles on the dial. If this is correct, then we are checking the water resistancy of the watch. We have special machines for that. And then the final thing we check is the rate of the movement. This means we check if the mechanical movement is running fast or it's running slow. If all this is correct, we can put on the strap and the watch is going to its final customer. I'm very proud to work at Frederique Constant because you really see the results of your creations. Every watchmaker has his own unique, special quality to add. And this results in very unique movements, very unique watches. And if somebody has a good idea, it's always welcome. If it's really a good idea, we use it in our products.
We did not have a history, so we could start from scratch. And this idea of creating accessible luxury, beautiful classical watches at a more reasonable price, we call it more reasonable, and thereby also approaching and targeting younger watch enthusiasts, that has been the philosophy in the beginning, and still per today it's the same. And we're also not going to change it in the future. That is the philosophy, the brand strategy and positioning that has let us grow on average with 20% per year for the past 25 years to the approximately 150,000 pieces we are producing now per year in the range from 1,000 to 5,000 Swiss francs retail value. So it's in two simple words, accessible luxury.